Hi, and welcome to the Thinking Out Loud podcast, a show with meaningful conversations in English and not about English. My name is Jędrek,
My name is Masha.
and we are two English teachers who
Recorded this podcast to make this world a better place, at least the world of ELT.
wow, you surprised me, Masha, with that caliber
It's usually,
of
it's usually something you
it's usually
think about, the
something down to
vision,
earth, like
like who trying to make some money or
what is your vision of making the world a better place?
no, it's not my vision. I'm in the shade of your vision,
Then you are hiding behind my vision now.
I'm not
Well, what
hiding.
about you?
I'm
I
kind
know.
of
Wait,
trying to get
let
some
me run
sun.
let me run an interview with you. I mean, how do you see the impact of your activity, your teaching, your professional activity? What kind of impact do you have on this world?
Is it now an interview?
Yeah, I'm interviewing you.
I'm
Why
not
not?
thinking that big, I'm just trying to help people. That's it. And these people will go and make this world a better place, like a parent. That's what parents do. They're not shining, they're just doing the right things at the right time. And then, boom.
The silent heroes,
Oh, come
parents.
on.
No, great.
Not
I
a hero.
think, yeah. The truth is that we can't do much. But I remember there was this story about the forest that is on fire and the animals that are running away from the forest, and there's just this little colibri dragging a droplet of water and and dropping it on the fire. And everybody is like, "What are you doing? You are never going to stop the fire." But he says that, yeah, but I'm doing my share. I do what I can because I'm small, but I'm doing what I can. And if you guys all join and bring some water, and we may be able to put out the fire. And that's the story. So I guess we are these little colibers, that
Maybe.
try to, yeah, with
But I love
that.
seeing, how people become more confident. And
Sure.
when they tell me that thank you, it's because of you. Oh my God. It's
Yeah,
cool.
it feels good.
Feels great.
It feels good.
Feels good.
All right, but with this small podcast, it's also our kind of droplet of water, um let's say, because I think that we do mean something, right?
We
With
might.
it. We might. Yeah. All right.
Okay, you got your share of grandiose or whatever. That's it.
All right, great. I'm
That's
satisfied.
enough.
Fine. But it's not the end as for this episode. All right,
Okay,
guys.
so
I would just like to say big thank you to everybody who's listening or watching
or
our
watching.
show. Yes. And we have a brand new website. It's tolpodcast.com. Of course, links are also in the description. And there you can find everything that really matters. That is, you could, first of all, leave us a voicemail. Please do.
The day when
I think,
somebody will be.
oh, yeah, that's going to be, I think we are going to celebrate that. Okay. So there's a link there. You go to tolpodcast.com and you can't miss it. It's like somewhere in the middle of the page. And then there's also buy me a coffee service. If you appreciate what we are doing, if you think that we can save the world of education, then you can show us some appreciation by
Bring your
buying
little
us.
droplet of
Yeah,
water.
exactly. All right, great. Fine. So, Masha, I think it's time to introduce our guest,
Special guest.
a special guest today. All right. So, we once again, this is another guest who well, we know I can't tell his name, can I?
Yes. Why not? Why
All right,
can't you
okay,
tell his
great.
name?
So okay, so we know Sam because Sam is going to be our guest. We know him from well, the internet, right? Because we met before
Yeah.
once, and
Mm-hmm.
then I met Sam also in Barcelona at the Innovate ELT conference. Fantastic teacher, an American based in Germany. teaching in Germany and enthusiast of the German, of the life in Germany, German trains, and other aspects of German life, and also a great person, I think, who doesn't sound like this typical teacher. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I think
All
I do.
right. All
Okay.
right. So let's say hi.
Hello.
Hi, Sam.
Hey, good to see
How are you
you.
doing? It's great to
I'm
see you
doing
on the
well.
show. I said it in the introduction that you're a huge enthusiast of Germany. Is that right?
I may not come off that way on my very large Twitter account of 100 followers.
Exactly. This is what I'm referring to.
Yeah, exactly. I realized that too. I was like, maybe I'm complaining too much because it's life is pretty good here. I have to say, I do love Germany. I like being here, but I have a lot of complaints as well. It's the way it is. You got to take
Are
the good
they
with the
about
bad.
healthcare system?
The healthcare is good. I've had a
Ah,
good experience with the healthcare.
okay.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you were sort of, I think, complaining about the Deutsche Bahn ticket, the famous, what is it, 50 euros per month, or
There's
what's the
the
offer? Because
49 euros actually.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
49 euros. Come on,
49
that
euros,
puts you.
even cheaper. I wasn't complaining about the ticket. I think I was responding to somebody was complaining about what was somebody had a post about, wow, I was surprised to see this shocking UI interface for a German bank, to then find out that interface was just having people do paperwork afterwards for 4 days. And I thought of my experience getting the Deutsche, this ticket, right? The Deutschland ticket, because I thought, okay, I'm going to be traveling quite a bit in the next few days to take a train to go fly to Barcelona, where we met last week. A couple other things. I'll just buy the ticket now. So downloaded the app. On the way to the bus I was getting on, paid for the ticket. And then I got this confirmation that said, thank you. We will process your payment and get back to you. So then for the next 5 days, including on the way to Barcelona, I spent 50, 60 euros on train tickets, and then finally got a response. Congratulations, your ticket has processed. And I thought, okay, so it's not instant, even with an app here. So
it's not the first time I hear that Germany is somehow technologically backward. Would you subscribe to this?
Definitely,
Like,
yeah.
I don't know actually if I can provide any examples, but it's exactly, there is always this paperwork that kind of backs up the whatever digital stuff is going on, right? So even though there are apps, portals, and so on, but you still have to kind of, they haven't resigned from the paper system.
That's right, especially
Yeah.
on the bureaucratic level. So
Yeah.
when you have to go to what's called like the Ausländerbehörde, or the foreigner's office here, you're facing multiple challenges at once. One is dealing with the pile of paperwork, and the other is dealing with these, let's just say the customer service is not it's not great. It's not great. So nobody likes going there, and you see fax machines in these buildings. And so somehow they're still doing faxes, and possibly even what is the Morse code. I'm not sure, but yeah, there's a lot of paperwork in Germany. So
all right. Yeah, this is strange, right? Because I remember also my imagination from my youth was that, wow, Western Europe, they're so advanced.
Yeah. And
But
now many Ukrainians live in Europe, and I have students who now live in Germany, and they say, "Oh my God, we comparing to Ukraine, it's like Stone Age."
yeah.
I think our part of the world benefited somehow perversely from the fact that we were isolated, and then we had to catch up, and somehow we are more technologically minded. I'm thinking about, like, for example,
Resourceful, maybe.
banking. yeah, but also, you know, this openness to innovation, this openness to digital, you know, I think, yeah, we are very enthusiastic about it, you know. But it's not like this in France, and neither is it in Germany, right?
Right. So here they're still very much running on these successes that came well before modern tech, right? So, I mean, people still think of German manufacturing, German cars, right? The automotive industry, these kind of traditional industries. And that's kind of still what's propelling them and their reputation. Whereas, as you said, Eastern Europe, it's like, you know, all these revolutions, all the wall came down, everything happened when the tech boom came, and they were able to kind of jump in, right? So, and my wife says the same. She's from Romania, and their internet is much faster than it is here in Germany, much more accessible and much more reliable and cheaper as well. So, yeah.
I saw some numbers recently about the GDP and the progress. Romania is totally crazy, you know. I mean, the past 20 or 30 years, it's been an amazing growth witnessed by Romania. It's amazing. As I think, yeah, it's the greatest success story in Europe, I guess, of the past few decades, you know. Amazing.
Yeah. Who'd have thought freedom would do that to you, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but you know, it happened despite people leaving the country to an unheard of scale, because every young person basically was looking for some opportunities abroad, right? And if I look around here, you know, my doctors, they're all Romanians. They're all Romanians, you know, in France, a rural France. I'm talking about.
That's what my wife does. So she's that case for Germany, right? So it's and it's a tough choice for people like her, because you might love your country and have family and friends there, but at the end of the day, where are you going to go practice medicine, right? So it's tough, but it's getting better there. So yeah,
I think it's getting better. We should actually, Masha, visit Romania one day. If anyone is listening, yeah. So great.
Podcast meetup, perhaps. Followers, listeners, everybody meet up and have a live podcast.
I'd love to have a connection to Romania. I know that Dima, by the way, who was our guest a few episodes ago, lives in Romania now. Yeah, but I'd like to speak to a Romanian, genuine Romanian. All right, fine.
We should get Sam's wife on the show.
Yeah. She's a little quieter than me, but she might be happy to come on.
All right, great.
I think you would be super impressed with her English. And maybe I'm curious, in Poland, is it okay if I ask a question now? Unless
well, sure, come on,
sure,
right? Just go with it, right? Well, she grew up, and the TV in Romania is the television's not dubbed, right? So it's all authentic. So if you're watching English TV, is it the same way in Poland?
It is, but we have a voiceover, like you know, a person reading, but you can still hear the original. So I guess it's like second best option in comparison to the subtitles.
Right.
But yeah, so you could we never had the dubbing. That is, you know, just actors playing voices of
So you're saying that your wife's good English as a result of Romanian TV? It was not you who taught her the language?
No. So actually, no, she wasn't. She was never one of my students. We actually met in the US. And when I first met her, my first thought was, like, which part of the US are you from? It's like this real American accent, but it's mixed, you know, just because it's got a lot of different influences. And then I soon found out she was Eastern European. So so she got, you know, great English through television, which is pretty interesting. So
cool. Right.
Yeah.
All right. We that's an idea for our next all right. Fine. Sam, before we get down to this you know, thinking out loud proper, I'm just curious about your German. How is it going, your German language, and how are you learning that?
I am, yeah. It's It's not as good as it should be because I've been here since 2013. So that's
If
a
you are
decade.
learning, then you should say
Crazy.
jawohl.
Jawohl, ich spreche Deutsch. Ich verstehe alles, aber yeah. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Some might say that I speak Franconian now, though. So I'm in this region called Franconia, where they've got a very specific accent that I wonder if I'm up. But yeah, it should be better. I started in Berlin in 2013, and it's nearly impossible to learn there because everybody just speaks English to you all the time.
Yeah.
Right? You hardly hear German in the center of Berlin.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course working in English all the time. Now these are just my excuses, but say it's gotten better in the last couple of years. Yeah, and arguably with the help of podcasts similar to yours, not to toot your horn or anything too much, but that idea of just something that's not specifically for or about language, but it's designed to be through the language, interesting topics. And once I found stuff like that I could follow and understand, I think it really picked up. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did after coming to France, because my French was, well, non-existent back then. And I simply started listening to podcasts. And I remember Rendezvous Tech, a podcast about technology. I'm not into tech, but since I understand Microsoft, Apple, and Google, these words, these I know these brands. So I thought like, okay, if I hear that, here and there in the podcast, then I at least, I can understand these few
I'm following.
Gives you something to hang on to, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, Google, and then it gives you a context, right, of what's happening.
Yeah, exactly. And I quickly found out that the host I was really a nice guy. I started even to imitate his melody,
right,
for some time because it's natural, right? If you listen to someone. But I think, I started, so that was totally against all the crash and, theories about this, your level +1, because for me, it was like basically, and I don't know, just a pulp of sounds, totally incomprehensible, but with time, and some goodwill, I think I managed to figure out certain things, and it helped me a lot. Although it's been I don't know, 2 years, of listening,
right,
regular listening. Yeah.
And I guess that's not totally against crashing, because it's like, I mean, the input +1, yes, but you're like input +200, but you're just going for the wild ride, and trying to, but there's probably some personality factors there as well too. Like, the type
absolutely.
of person
Absolutely.
I love the challenge. I don't need to understand everything. Some people can take that adventure, and so they'll learn from it. And some really need that. What's the next step that I can handle? So, yeah. Interesting.
Right. All right, fine. So let's slowly move towards the thinking out loud proper, because this show is about, Masha, what is this show about? Cracking concepts?
Nobody understands that, what is cracking concepts?
Okay, we have a concept. We have a concept like, let's say, whatever, a machine, and we try to understand what is a machine, right? It's not, it goes without saying if you use it in your first language, but once you talk in a foreign language, I guess you see more, sort of.
What's the point in that? Some people ask, like, what's the point of defining these concepts if we could talk about, I don't know, tech, economy, whatever, health?
Yeah, or our last summer,
Yeah,
you're right. But I mean, my idea, since I guess very early in my career, was that language serves as a tool to sort of pump the meaning into the world, right?
Yep.
I know I sound kind of strange, but you materialize the meaning. It's not like, okay, I'll look it up in a dictionary. Fine, there you go. This is the meaning of this word and that word. But it's very important that you do it personally, and you take certain responsibility for that. Like, okay, this is my way of seeing things. That's why, you know, this whole database, very vast right now, of questions appeared. And yeah, let's have some fun, Sam, with you. Although for you as a native speaker, it may not be, you know, that kind of challenge. We'll see. We'll see if it's challenging or not. So let's go to the what is famously known as round one. If we
I'll
ever
just say
go
that
beyond.
to just before you start, I have conversations with learners of mine who, and this is maybe inspiring or motivating for people learning English, and they completely push me to my intellectual level. And they're not using perfect English or native speaker English or whatever. They're engaged in a proper conversation at the edge of their comfort zone. And I'm there with them, and it's exciting and it's great. And yeah, so that happens all the time on a daily basis for me. So
Right.
just a side note. So yeah.
No, I think, but this is what learning languages should be about. It's about, you know, having meaningful conversations and really communicating, and not just reporting, right? Like what was like what did you do yesterday, or you know, what's your favorite book, and so on. But just you know, I always say I don't like the retrospection. I like the projection, you know, to go forward and basically improvise a little bit.
Totally.
Fine. So, Masha, given I have your permission to ask whatever I want, Sam, I'm going to ask you this little question here that may later evolve into something else. But first, since you are an enthusiast also, not only of Germany, but of technology too, I want to ask you this very simple question. Can computers think?
That's a really okay. Yeah, that's a good one. Can computers think? You know, it depends what we mean by think.
Exactly.
Right? I think we need to get into the word think first, don't we? So what is it to think? Do we mean to make calculations? Because if that's the case, obviously they can think, and in some cases, arguably better or more efficiently than humans can, right?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if I ask you, like, what's, I know, 537 times 686, do you know the answer? It's like, oh my, you know, but the computer is, for the computer, it's, you know, a split second, even less, you know,
right.
You get the, instantly you get the result.
Right.
Is it
exactly.
thinking?
Or as I was describing before a bit, you know, using it to create teaching materials. Well, it can do certain kinds of thinking for me very quickly, right? So think of a classic task where you have two schedules, right? And okay, I want, so I'll tell like ChatGPT, I'd like you to create two schedules for me about two busy managers in finance who only have one time in the week that they can line up. Now, you might say the most important part of that thought process came from me, because I knew that I wanted people to do this for some reason, right? But I could outsource that other part of thinking of, you know, this real grunt work, I would call it, this kind of thinking, to the computer. So it did a different form of thinking, right? So certain
but you call it
of,
thinking?
Maybe not. No. Calculating. I don't know if I'd call it thinking. Maybe the word cognition is a better word to compare. Do they have cognition?
Because what is the task that you're setting for the computer here? You want the computer to design two schedules of two hypothetical businessmen, busy people, and there's only like one slot when they can meet, right?
Right.
All right. And normally you could do it, but that would consume a lot of time. I don't know if there's a lot of thinking here, Masha. Like, it's just about, you know, designing something that looks credible, right? Something that looks like a real life material. And
something
then,
that has
but
to.
what is happening then? It's trying to find a schedule online, or how does it come up with this? You know, that's what interesting, because I heard some people say that maybe I'm wrong, maybe they're wrong, that not we don't really know how, this, let's say, ChatGPT, how, what is happening, how it creates these texts or whatever you ask it to create, and this is, remember, Jendrik, I think I sent you a page from a book. It's called Brain or something like this, and there was this Chinese, like if I didn't know Chinese, but I was put in a room full of Chinese books, or rather, it's basically what ChatGPT, I think, does, or computer, that how do you build sentences? Maybe you calculate of all, the words which exist in the world, which word is very likely to come next after this word. At least this is how I see the process,
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
really
It's
thinking.
kind of reminds me of some kind of probability calculation, right? Like there's a even today, if you're using Word processor, text processor, it kind of suggests you certain things when you type. And you then
right,
you
or
just
even on your
tab.
phone if you're WhatsApp messaging. That's like
exactly.
a super simple version of it, right?
Yeah.
You can just keep pushing the next and you'll create some crazy message, right?
Yeah, that's what I do.
But I've heard that as a sort of people who I think underestimate this technology or perhaps are not humble enough about it will say things like, all it does is give you the next word. Yeah. All it does. And to me, that's like saying all it is placebo for something that works as a placebo. I'm like, that's the most mysterious, amazing thing that there is, right? So how can something, and you're right, there is a lot of unknowns here. There's a lot of unknowns about the human brain, and there's a lot of unknowns about how this technology is working, right? So yes, it does produce the next word, but why does it make sense? And creating those kinds of tasks, I said, that doesn't require much thought, but there are ways that you push it that really make you think, is it thinking, right? It makes you wonder more if it's thinking, right? It'll freak you out a little bit at times, and make you wonder, okay, what is thought then, right?
What's the difference between calculating and thinking? How do you see that? Because you mentioned that it might be just calculation, right? So it's like a reduced form of thinking, or what?
Calculation versus thinking. I'm not really, I don't know, I'm not a particularly mathematical person, but I could come at it from the language side. And to me, what's interesting is what is the difference between producing semantic meaning, which means the sentence has meaning, right? Like the cat did this in a very simple way or something, versus the meaning that we experience in our lives versus meaning that we have as humans, right? So the meaning, we have two definitions of meaning, right? We have this sentence has, what does this sentence mean? And what is the meaning of this experience? Or what is the meaning of right? What is the meaning? When you say meaningful conversations, that you want to have meaningful conversations on here, you don't mean I want the sentence to make sense.
Yeah.
You mean I want it to mean something to me as a human. And what I
even
don't have
if you're imperfect, right? Even if your syntax may be broken at times, but then you still mean something, right?
And the other way around, your sentences may be perfect. I like sometimes this chat produces perfect sentences and it looks pretty coherent, but then you start reading it. I asked to produce a short text to teach something. I don't remember which grammar. And I'm reading this story and the story just falls apart, but it's grammatically perfect.
Right.
And it's kind of, coherent, but many questions, you understand that the thing.
And humans write that way too, by the way, because not every story you've read by humans is great, right? You're like, okay, where's this going?
Yeah. You're right.
So before I finish with that idea, because it's not really worked out, but it's to plant a seed, right? This idea of what is the relationship between semantic meaning, so a sentence making sense, and meaning, the bigger definition of meaning. And I think that's fascinating.
But isn't that
because
the meaning, isn't that actually significance?
Significance. Yeah, that's a good way to
Because
put it. Yeah. Significance has meaning, as in, right? Because meaningless, right, would mean it there's no significance. It doesn't
exactly,
matter,
exactly. So
right?
it's like
Yeah. So that's a really
it's
good
like
way
the
to put
weight
it.
of what you say.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Exactly. And that's hard to define, but we all know what that meaning is, because we're humans. And I think that's is what right now separates us from the machine, is that we experience meaning not just in the semantic sense, but in the significant sense, right? And that's not just tied to knowing. It's not tied to just knowledge, factual, explicit knowledge. It's tied to being in the world, having a body, having feelings, right? Having relationships with people, being an important part of our environment. I mean, we know that the environment impacts who we are dramatically, right? And so that kind of human thought, I think, is, I don't know exactly. I don't want to be presumptuous and say that AI won't do that, but as of now, that's the difference between this calculating thought, please do this for me, Chat GPT, versus meaningful thought, right, in the world. Does that make
I'm really
sense, or
glad
is it too crazy?
Yeah, I mean, I know, Masha, if that makes sense to you, but it makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
I'm really glad you said what you said, because also referring to my speech in Barcelona, when I talked about, this genuine education, I think what you have outlined right now is exactly what I mean. What teachers or education sector as such should defend by all costs. That is, basically defend this, let's say, feeling of significance. Because if we lose, because imagine that we get totally isolated, right? We most of our interactions take place, I know, via technology, and not even with humans, but we have all these call centers, whatever. You basically speak to machine. I can imagine this future coming, that most of our interactions will actually be between machines, us and machines, some sort of intelligent and of course quite clever, but still machines. And if we get reduced to this, then we sort of lose this, this feeling of significance, or this understanding of significance, that is, what is it, and you won't be able to tell the difference between words spoken by a living human being that have certain significance, and just, it is very nice but also empty slogans from machines.
Right.
And this is, I think it's all about feeling at the end of the day, that education should make people sensitive to it, right? It's
Absolutely
hard work, I think, that's in front of us, all of us working.
Right. And I think it requires that if we take thinking, and what if we turn it into knowing, right? What does it mean to know? Because that's an important part of education. That's something we think about. And that roots this differently, because epistemology, right, is the study of, or, how we know what we know. And we have an education system largely now that really depends on explicit factual knowledge, which is super important and has led to a lot of important things like medicine and technology and advancement in so many ways. And we need it, but it's only one part of how we know, right? We know in other ways. We know what it's like I know what it's like to be a father, right? I know how it feels to have an experience, to experience a sunset after a long night out, right? I think about knowing in terms of skills, and you talked about skills in your talk as well, and I think that's right, that we can't just be like, okay, you have this skill, so you're a functioning unit in society, right? But I think skill can also be seen in a way that empowers us, which is, a skill is a way of knowing. It's a way of connecting with the world in a truly deep way as an individual. And what I mean is, like, if you play music, right? I've got a guitar behind me, and it's been important to me for a long time. is I can read and try to be rational and watch lectures and try to think rationally all the time. But there's a way that I connect with the world around me in a much more different way when I do it through music, for example, right? And I think that ties in with this holistic idea of education that you're talking about, right? Is not just knowing facts.
Except this let's say second type of knowing, I think is extremely difficult to teach. It can only be somehow grown, or I don't know how to call it even, but because there's this concept of tacit knowledge, if you know it from economics.
Yep.
That there's a guy, a carpenter, who knows how to hit the nail because the knowledge is somewhere in his hand, or I don't know where in his experience. But if he was to write a book about it, like how to hit nails so that with one hit you basically nail it, he couldn't do it, because all I do is I just take the hammer and I just hit it like this.
Absolutely.
But
a lot of what we do is tacit.
Yeah, it's tacit. Yeah, and I think what you said about those skills, they kind of seem to me like tacit skills, because it's not something you can learn on the course.
Right.
Like how to appreciate the fact of being a father, or seeing the sunset, how to experience that. I don't
and
think...
how those things impact everything else you do.
Yeah.
Right. Because knowing what it's like to be a person who's just get right to it, not going to be here forever, gives your life a certain significance that then impacts everything else that you do, right? And would a machine that might live forever ever experience that limitation that gives meaning to life and has it show up for you in different ways, right? So it's the true human.
Would our life lose meaning if we could live forever?
Personally, for me, it would, because I get great inspiration from this kind of stoic idea of memento mori, right? Of just literally sitting there sometimes and thinking about the fact that I'm going to die. For me, it's like, if I think about it intensely enough and just meditate on it, it's like psychedelic. Like, it changes my perspective on everything. That just thinking about that fact and the cosmic significance or insignificance of me, right? Based on that fact. So that's a personal thing. There are people who are trying to live forever as well. I'm not sure I really get that.
Like Ray Kurzweil, I think.
Right.
If you know the guy, he's taking like 200 different pills each day to slow down his getting older, basically,
Right. That's right. So, yeah. These futurists, right? Or something like that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we move on from tacit knowledge, because that also ties into language learning, right? And I know this isn't about language learning, but I think that's really important for language teaching and learning, right? That most of it is actually implicit. And so the question is, how do we teach that? And one of the first things I tell my students as a teacher of business English is that I can't teach you English, and there's no such thing as business English. I love saying that on the first day. What are you talking about? And I said, well, you've been led to believe through schooling that language can just be transmitted to you from me to you, and you will somehow remember it and be able to use it. And I say, this is unscientific, but probably better to think of it more like swimming. You jump in with something very manageable at first, which might just be putting your foot in the water. And then gradually you put yourself in more and more challenging situations in which your skills are growing, right? And with a good coach and a good trainer, their job is to put you in those situations at the right level of challenge at the right time. And so that eventually you're jumping in the water that's over your head and you're swimming skillfully. And by the way, that is tacit as well. Try telling me how you swim well. Good luck with that, right? It's incredibly complex. Your body does it, right? So, yeah.
I mean, if that wasn't tacit knowledge, then one champion could actually raise another champion, because that if let's say Michael Phelps could tell you how does he do it, right? I mean, then he could actually raise a generation of fantastic swimmers,
right?
Because if he was in possession of that knowledge, but he's not.
Right.
Because it's not only, of course, certain physical abilities, but also certain knowledge, right? But it's only Phelps who knew it.
Right. Yeah. And it somehow can't be articulated, or can't be articulated very well. Right. Plus, when we're talking about swimming, we're talking about, extreme athletic performance and the genetic components of that, and all of that stuff as well, which you can't really teach that either, being built like a super athlete. So
I'm listening to you
people...
guys, and I think, Jendrik, there is maybe no such thing as, what do you call it, authentic education. We just have to just tell people plainly that it's not teachable, people. It's learnable, but it's not teachable. So stop paying whatever you're paying to people who promise you that, or something like that,
I'm not saying that there shouldn't be teachers, right? Because it might
why do we
sound like...
why do we need teachers today? Why? We have Google, we have ChatGPT.
I think it goes back to this tacit thing, this
But
tacit
it's not
knowledge,
teachable.
and the acquisition of skills. So that when I tell my students I can't teach you, what I mean to them is not that you shouldn't pay me. I want you to pay me. And I think it's worth your money also. That what I can do is understand what you need to do and help you to do that thing, to help guide your behavior, to save you time. You don't need a language teacher. Nobody does. People have been learning languages for a long time, with no teachers, with no courses, with no packaged materials or apps or anything. It's one of the first things we were able to kind of learn in a very authentic sense around the campfire, maybe, right? But well, you can speed up the process, right? You can do the right things and you can do the wrong things, and a good teacher can help you to do the right things and be a participant for you, right? When I like talking with my students, because I feel like by participating in the conversation with me, they're learning, right? So that's another
just,
role.
the sad thing, I think today, is that many students I led to believe, I think misled, is when they are told that if you do this, 1,000 times, you will be successful. And I mean, maybe in some other subjects, but not in the language. They need to be told that there are some things you just have to do on your own, no matter if you have a teacher or you don't. Teacher can help you, like you said, speed up the process, but some things you cannot teach. They can be learned. That's it.
Right. That's a good way to put it. They can be learned, but not taught.
But very often students are not told that, they're given, 100% guaranteed method. If you do this for 1 year, 1,000 times or whatever, you will be at this level, let's say. Yeah.
Yeah.
So many
And we
hours.
sell...
I think that's why language has been commodified and sold like that, and there are certificates designed, because I know that when it comes to Cambridge certificates, you can actually do that, Masha. If you, I don't know, if you sit down and solve, I don't know, 1,000 tests, use of English tests, then you will see your score gradually progressing, and it will be fairly consistent. I know that. So you can actually prepare. Yeah, the score, I know
but
that.
Will you be able to have meaningful conversations?
No, that's another thing. That's another thing.
And this is important too. If you look at studies of second language acquisition, right, there's a lot of debate and there's a lot of different perspectives on it. But one common theme is that a lot of studies that point to, say, explicit teaching being very effective happen to be studies where they were doing explicit testing.
Yes.
Right. So yes, memorizing grammar rules for an exam can help you do better on that exam.
Definitely.
But can it give you communicative competence? No. Right. I mean, I've honestly had in my career, I've had people test at like a B2 or C1 level, like with written stuff when I got the initial exam, and barely be able to produce sentences in conversation. So I've experienced that myself, with my own experiences with some students. So
yeah. All right, guys, let's go back to this,
So can a
thinking,
computer
calculating.
think?
Yeah, can a computer think? Because we kind of drifted away from that. Sam, what do you say? Can it think?
Can I say it depends? No, it can't think if thinking means what we went off to describe thinking to be, which means if we define thinking as not just computing, right? Instead of calculation, let's say computing. If we define it as not just that, but as meaningful participation in the world and the mental processes that accompany that, well, I don't think computers are there yet, but I'm also not going to say they couldn't get there because I have no idea where all this stuff is going. So
Great.
and it's outside of my expertise.
All right. Yeah, I think that thinking is much more than calculating, much more than computing, even though we have this tendency, right, to compare our brains to it's like a supercomputer.
Right.
But I don't think it goes beyond that, for sure. All right, fine. Masha, what's the time? Could we
Mr.
open
Wolf.
another
What's
leg?
the time, Mr. Wolf? Not really.
Not
to
really.
make your
All
wife
right.
unhappy,
Oh yeah, you're right.
You
I'm
earned
really
some
glad
time with the bad connection, right? Tell her, hey, I need 10 more minutes because,
Great. Fine. So thanks a lot, Sam, for this conversation. It opened many doors, and I think I'll spend some time also digesting what you said. I needed that a lot, also for my exploration of what is education and so on. So it's great, to hear that being really said out loud, because it's sometimes things that you feel, but you can't verbalize it. And I guess you verbalized a lot of the things that I felt, but simply couldn't,
Cheers.
verbalize.
Well,
Great. Thanks a lot.
I tried to give this great topic, do it justice. And it was a great topic. Really nice to talk to you both, and super interesting. And I look forward to future episodes as well.
Great.
I've become a fan.
Tell us before. Great. Before
maybe you'll become a regular.
Oh, I just meant watching your own episodes, but sure, I'll come back. Yeah, why not?
Before we let you go, how can people find you on the internet?
So I have a modest Twitter account that I've just relatively recently started using. Gravell Sam. So my name is Sam Gravell. So Gravell Sam, 2 L's at the end. I'm on LinkedIn as well. So there you can find some of the stuff that I'm talking about professionally, delivering workshops at the moment, trying to get people up to speed with the implications and the uses of AI in a practical way for language teaching. So yeah, that's probably the best spot at the moment. Maybe I'll start a podcast eventually.
I'll include I'll include the links in the description, of course. So check it out. All right, Masha, I guess it's over to you.
This was another episode of the Thinking Out Loud podcast. Stay tuned for the next one. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.